leave it to Beaver, he just would repeat everything he would say. He was like, yeah.
I don't know the reference, but I
It's
agree.
kind of like Zophar, like, it's like, he repeated everything.
Yeah, he's the background wingman.
Yeah, well, you said, Johnny, get him.
That ain't Haskell.
That's it. Okay.
So Zophar speaks up to rebuke Job. It says, Zophar the Naamathite answered, shall a multitude of words go unanswered, and a talkative man be acquitted? Shall your boast silence men? Shall you scoff and none rebuke? For you have said, my teaching is pure, and I am innocent in your eyes. But would that God might speak and open his lips against you, and show you the secrets of wisdom. Again, this is Zophar talking to Job. For sound wisdom has two sides. Know then that God forgets a part of your iniquity. Can you discover the depths of God? Can you discover the limits of the Almighty? They are high as the heavens. What can you do? Deeper than Sheol, also known as the grave. Deeper than Sheol, what can you know? Its measure is longer than the earth and broader than the sea. If he passes by or shuts up or calls an assembly, who can restrain him? For he knows false men, and he sees iniquity without investigating. That sounds almost like those are some pointed words. You could almost hear some, what's the word I'm looking for? Emphasis. He knows false men, Job. An idiot will become intelligent when the foal of a wild donkey is born a man. Wow. If you would direct your heart right and spread out your hand to him, if iniquity is in your hand, put it far away, and do not let wickedness dwell in your tent. Then indeed you can lift up your face without moral defect, and you would be steadfast and not fear. For you would forget your trouble. As waters that have passed by, you would remember it. Your life would be brighter than noonday. Darkness would be the light of the morning. Then you would trust because there is hope. And you would look around and rest securely. You would lie down and none would disturb you. And many would entreat your favor. But the eyes of the wicked will fail, and there will be no escape for them, and their hope is to breathe their last. Like you said, brutal. And if you, I don't expect everyone here to remember, because I wouldn't remember if I hadn't been reading up beforehand. But if you read what Job just said, and then read Zophar's rebuke, you can tell he wasn't listening to a word. Not a word. Because he says half of these things that he says come straight from Job's mouth. Job already said these things. And the rest of it were all said by the others, by Eliphaz and Bildad. So he's either just backing up his buddies, or he's sitting there in his in his own head, thinking himself as wise, and only really speaking the obvious things.
Probably thinking about that donkey analogy the whole time. How you could really lay that one out.
Yeah. Isn't this a cool, wise thing to say? An idiot will become intelligent the day that a donkey is born as a man. What? Do you speak from experience so far? So far, so good?
Well, I worked with a few of them.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's why the Lord made a donkey speak later in the Bible.
It might be. It might be. Where Eliphaz answered out of experience and Bildad out of tradition, Zophar answers from assumptions. By this time, Zophar has become kind of excited through the expressed emotion from Job and the aggravated verbal assault from Bildad and partial from Eliphaz, and is by far the least courteous of the three. And maybe he feels that the others were gentle enough, and he's jumping on Bildad's shoulders in particular and going, we just need to call him out. It's time to just call him out. He's the friend who's the hammer. You know, the one who's just going to say it as it is. If only he had good words for it. Should not the multitudes of words be answered? Shall thy lies make men hold their peace? And it's something which seems like a sudden outburst of breath. He calls Job a fool and a liar. And Zophar himself doesn't speak without knowledge, but hateful words are no doubt of unbridled anger. He is at least quick to come to the defense of perceived blasphemy. I guess he has that going for him. He was absolutely aghast at Job's claim to have been pure, to being righteous, with the proof being that his friends had no proof of any wrongdoing, as if a lack of evidence is not the same. As if a lack of evidence is the same thing as evidence to the contrary. If you guys are following me. But as mentioned, Zophar has no issue with generating assumptions. He wishes that God himself would speak up against Job and reveal his lies, which is literally what Job's last speech was all about. He's saying, if only God would come and tell me what it is that I did. And Zophar is like, if only God would come and tell you what it is that you did. If he were to come down and speak, he would prove you guilty. And Job said just as much. He said, if God came down and spoke to me and said I was guilty, I'd be guilty. There's nothing to fight against. But I still don't know what I did. His tone, like Bildad, kind of grows softer halfway through the speech. Anger kind of burns away about as quickly as it comes, particularly when you're talking to somebody that you care about, somebody who's a friend. He likewise asks Job to repent. If you prepare your heart and stretch out your hand towards him, he encouraging Job to stop doing whatever iniquitous thing he was practicing and removing all wickedness from his house. Then, and only then, Zophar says, will Job be able to say that he is clean and can stand before God without fear. If Job were to do this, all the pain that he had been through and everything wrong that he has done will be forgotten like water underneath a bridge. His mind will again be clear and he will have joy again. Only those who are right will with God have hope, is his message. And he concludes his encouragement with a reminder concerning the fate of the wicked. So, still really holding on to that condemnation compared to Eliphaz and Bildad. They will be hopeless, they will fail, implying that this is Job's fate if he doesn't change. And then Job it's like Job almost cuts him off, because Zophar had very little to say. Either Zophar really had nothing to say, or Job wasn't having it, and he steps in. And then Job responded, truly then, you are the man. That says the people, but as you are the man. I mean, he could be referencing to all three of them, and that might be the why it's plural, but you are the people, you are the men, you are the man, and with you wisdom will die. But I have intelligence, the same as you. I am not inferior to you, and who does not know such things as these? I am a joke to my friends, the one who called on God, and he answered him. The just and the blameless man is a joke. That's him. He's saying, I'm the one, I am just, I am blameless, but the one who's just and blameless, he's the joke. Great. Thanks, Zophar. He who is at ease holds calamity in contempt, as prepared for those whose feet slip. He's saying, Zophar, of course you would see it this way, because you're not experiencing any of this. It's really easy to look at somebody who has fallen and go, that was your fault. Yeah, dummy. And forget that sometimes things just happen. The tents of the destroyers prosper, and those who provoke God are secure, giving evidence to the contrary of what Zophar has told them. That is whom God brings into their power. But now, ask the beasts and let them teach you. Ask the birds of the heaven and let them tell you. Or speak to the earth, let it teach you. And let the fish of the sea declare to you. Who among all these does not know that the hand of the Lord has done this? In whose hand is the life of every living thing, and the breadth of all mankind? Does not the ear test words, and the palate taste its food? Wisdom is with aged men, with long life is understanding. I think this is, I personally think that last little bit is evidence that Zophar was a bit younger than the others. Not necessarily young, but younger than the others. He's saying, oh yeah, you're so smart, Zophar. Who holds the wisdom? Those with gray hair or you? But he's saying it's so obvious that God is the one who has done this to me, which is true. This has happened because God signed off on it, regardless of whether or not it was God's hand. That's always up for debate when it comes to Job. But God has his hand in this. And he says, and Job is saying, if you were to ask the animals, you know what, if you were to ask the stones themselves, ask for their wisdom, they would tell you that this is God's doing. And I'm here to tell you, I don't know why, is what Job is saying. With him are wisdom and might. To him belong counsel and understanding. He's kind of responding to what Zophar had said. Behold, he tears down, and it cannot be rebuilt. He imprisons a man, and there can be no release. Behold, he restrains the waters, and they dry up. He sends them out, and they inundate the earth. With him are strength and sound wisdom. The misled and the misleader belong to him. He makes counselors walk barefoot. He makes fools of judges. He loosens the bonds of kings. He binds their loins with a girdle. He makes priests walk barefoot and overthrows the secure ones. By the way, that binds their loins with a girdle, that's the idea of preparation for battle. But he prepares the kings for battle. He pours contempt on nobles and loosens the belt of the strong. He reveals the mysteries from the darkness and brings the deep darkness into light. He makes the nations great, then destroys them. He enlarges the nation, then leads them away. He deprives of intelligence the chiefs of the earth's people and makes them wander in a pathless way. So that's kind of funny. he makes the leaders, the chief of the earth, stupid. He makes them just wander around. They grope in darkness with no light, and he makes them stagger like a drunken man. He's proving to Zophar that he understands God. He knows where God's power is. He knows who God is. So that catches us up to what you guys discussed last week. Does anything pop out that you guys want to comment on or have discussed? Anyone?
I saw the Senate and our Congress in that last statement clearly.
Yeah, very, very well. He deprives the intelligence of the chiefs of earth people, makes them wander in a pathless waste. They grope in darkness with no light, makes them stagger like a drunken man.
Yes. Eerily accurate.
Tells you also that things don't change. Seth and I were talking about this on the way here, and what we both really love about this book is the humanity that's in it. You can just see that they were people, real people, and the exact same as us. They weren't some elevated alien-esque intelligence, nor were they Neanderthals. They were exactly like us. They experience things as we did, the same emotions as we did, the same responses as we did. The only things that were different really were access to general technology, and their culture had certain implications. But other than that, they were the same. The way the world has been run, it's all the same.
I did see in Ezekiel chapter 14, I found Job in there mentioned with Noah, Daniel, and Job about their righteousness.
Yeah.
It was interesting.
Yeah. And we also talked about that, how you're looking at the righteousness of man and who can be counted as righteous. And We look at who God himself has called righteous, and Job is one of them, and we know that that's not a man without sin, it's not a man without having made mistakes. So there's something else there that makes a man righteous. David himself, I mean, you look at the mistakes that he made. Now that's, granted, when we read about David's life, we're seeing snapshots from different portions of his life. So he may have gone 10 years without having any sort of real issue and being really close to God, and then stumbled in the way that he did. And it might have been another 10 years after that before anything else happened. We know it was quite a bit of time, actually, because and by the end of it all, it was his sons that was causing him so much grief. Or son? I can't remember. But the righteousness of a man it's measured differently than how many things you've done wrong. Chapter 13. I'll let somebody else read. He's going to kind of reiterate some stuff. Let's read 1 through 12. This is the main thing he's saying here. He says his friends' proverbs are ashes, and that will have a particular impact on them because of this, considering where it is that they were sitting in a big old pile of ashes. Who's willing to read 13, 1 through 12?
Behold, my eyes have seen all this. My ear has heard and understood. What you know, I also know. I am not inferior to you. But I would speak to the Almighty, and I desire to reason with God. But you foregoers of lies, you are all worthless physicians. Oh, that you would be silent, and it would be your wisdom. Now hear my reasoning, and heed the pleadings of my lips. You shall speak wickedly of God, and talk deceitfully of him. Will you show partiality for him? Will you contend for God? Will I be well when he searches me out, or can you mock him as one mocks a man? He will surely rebuke you if you secretly show partiality. Will not his excellence make you afraid, and the dread of him fall upon you? Your platitudes are proverbs of ash, your defenses are defenses of clay.
All right. Thank you. What pops out at you?
To me, it's like, I've heard enough. You keep going on and on and on. I'm not stupid.
Yeah.
You know, I understand what you're saying, but it doesn't apply to me.
Yeah, how many times have they said, if you just ask for forgiveness, and he's sitting there going, if God would come and speak to me, I'll speak to him. I've tried talking to him from me to him, but there's no conversation here. I've been going to him. I've been asking for forgiveness. I don't think that there's some kind of loophole here. He reiterates in verse 2, what you know, I know too. I am not inferior to you when it comes to wisdom, when it comes to knowledge, when it comes to rank, when it comes to, you know what, pick a thing, guys. I'm not inferior to you, is what he's saying. I know these things. And if it was said once, maybe even twice, he'd be able to just count it as a reminder. But all three of them have been saying the same stuff. And he's like, come on. One of my favorite things that he says, he calls them worthless physicians. He says, you guys think you're here to help? Not only are you coming over here and just like sticking Band-Aids on random parts of my body, You're completely missing the wounds. You're also stabbing me as you go about it. You go, you know what, this scalpel's here for a reason. Worthless physicians. You guys are supposed to be here to help, and you have not only failed to help me in anything, but you've actually increased the damage. Thanks a lot.
No bedside manner.
Yeah.
So that also sounds a little bit eerily today, right?
Yeah. When it's time to get a new doctor, you just start quoting Job.
You might.
I really love verse 5. Oh, that you would be completely silent, and that would become your wisdom. You want to be wise? Shut up. You want to say something really wise? Keep your mouth shut. Is what he's saying. Based on what you guys have said, yeah, this is the truth of it. Anything else? Back in verse 4, it says, depending on the verse, it'll say, you are forgers of lies. That word forgers, the word is to smear or plaster over, actually smearing something. So you talk about smearing somebody's name, and it says right here in the NASB, it says, you smear with lies. That's a very old way of talking, very old way, saying that you smear it. And I just find that interesting, how that act of smearing is, even back then, was applied to lying about somebody, smearing their name, kind of thing. But your remembrances, it's actually saying here, yeah, your memorable sayings, your platitudes are proverbs of ashes. They mean absolutely nothing. And your defenses are defenses of clay. They're weak. The ashes are dead, easily blown away. Your clay is weak, easily broken. And so he then continues to tell them to shut up. Verse 13 through 19. Somebody please.
Hold your peace with me and let me speak, and let come on me what may. What do I take my flesh in my teeth and put my life in my hands? Though he slay me, yet I will trust him. Even so, I will defend my own ways before him. He shall be my salvation, for a hypocrite cannot come before him. Listen carefully to my speech and to my declaration with your ears. See now, I have prepared my case. I know that I shall be vindicated. Who is he who will contend with me? If now I hold my tongue, I perish.
What pops up for you guys?
He's telling them to be quiet, and he's saying, I have to speak.
It also tells you that he still does value their insight. He values that they're there. He knows that they're capable of understanding. They've just gotten themselves way out of hand, and he doesn't feel like he's been heard at all. So he goes, nothing you've said so far has been of any value. Clearly, you guys are missing what I'm saying. So now, be quiet. Let that be your wisdom, and let me talk. And listen, he says. Lean in and listen to me. Make sure you're paying attention this time. Because I believe I'm going to be vindicated in what I'm about to say. 20 through 28.
Only two things do not do to me, then I will not hide from your face. Remove your hand from me, and let not the dread of you terrify me. And call, and I will answer, or let me speak, and reply to me. How many are my iniquities and sins? Make known to me my rebellion and my sin. Why do you hide your face and consider me your enemy? Will you cause a driven leaf to tremble, or will you pursue the dry chaff? For you write bitter things against me, and make me to inherit the iniquities of my youth. You put my feet in the stocks and watch all my paths. You set a limit for the soles of my feet, while I am decaying like a rotten thing, like a garment that is moth-eaten.
Two things do not do to me. Then I will not hide from your face. Do not, and then it goes, do not remove your hand from me, and do not let your dread terrify me. Don't let your fears, don't let what you're afraid of be projected onto me. Then call, and I will answer. Or let me speak, then reply to me. It kind of gives the idea that Job started talking, and then every time that he's finished his speech, it's not actually been the finishing of his speech. It's been Bildad or Eliphaz cutting him off, or not Eliphaz, Zophar. So he's saying, don't cut me off. Ask a question, and then I'm going to answer it. Now I have some questions for you guys. He's saying.
I don't think it's really been a conversation up to this point. I think it's just like everybody's getting stuff off their chest.
Yeah.
We've all done that. Like somebody's talking, you're just like, I'm not listening to what, I'm just getting ready to where I can say what I need to say.
Yeah. They've gone through they've been, again, sitting for 7 days, 7 nights, out in the open, in a pile of ashes, watching him scrape pus and things off of his body with a broken piece of pottery. And they've gone through all the different stages of grief, and now they're just sitting there uncomfortable and wanting it all to be over. My mind has been completely blank. Fresh start. So he says, how many things have I done that are wrong? Is he's asking. How can you name any of my iniquities, any of my sins, guys? Can you tell me anything that I've done? Have you seen anything, any evidence to what it is that you're saying? Have you personally seen it? Make it known to me my rebellion, my sin. Why do you hide your face and consider me your enemy? It almost sounds like they're not actually willing to look at him in the eye. Will you cause a driven leaf to tremble? Will you pursue the dry chaff? Basically something. The imagery is something that's already worthless and dead. You're pursuing things that have no value. It's already dead. The dry chaff, it's talking about when you're processing grain, you kind of rub it between your hands and it breaks apart between the actual grain and the shell, right? Most of you know this. And then what they'll do, they'll have that in like a basket and they'll start tossing it up, right? And the chaff, if it's dry chaff, it's super light. And as you toss the grain and you catch it, what comes back down is the grain and the chaff is all blown away. So it's genuinely worthless stuff is what they're pursuing, he's saying. You put my feet in the stocks and watch all of my paths. You set a limit for the soles of my feet, while I am decaying like a rotting thing, like a garment that is moth-eaten. Oh man, can you imagine? That's something else I keep forgetting when I imagine Job speaking, is that he is absolutely covered in sores, in boils. He looks like a rotting corpse as he's talking, which also brings a little bit more credence to how it is that his friends are feeling when they're and why it is they might not be looking at him in the eye, because it's probably a little off-putting. They're looking at him and feeling revulsion and going, okay, this is so bad. You have to understand how bad this is. God did that to you, and he had a reason for it. God would not let this happen to a man without reason. Puts things a little bit more into perspective for how his friends feel. Not to reality, but how his friends feel. Any thoughts before moving on to 14? Any comments, ideas, random assertions?
I just think that's the only way have a conversation with anybody, I feel like a lot of assumptions are brought into every relationship, you know? And like when we're basing emotion and dealing with things through assumptions, how do you fight that? Like, you can't, you almost have to do exactly what Job did, is saying, okay, like, give me a clear, defining problem here that you've noticed, so we can like then focus on it. I think this is what like guys are really good at. Like, we're single-minded, we really are. So it's just like, we can kind of focus a little bit on like, okay, well then like, give me a singular thing that now we can fix. Don't bring on all these assumptions that I can't defend against, nobody can defend against, you know what I'm saying?
Let's start
Like, we
attacking
can't-
these
we can't-
things one by one.
Yeah, we will never figure anything out with assumptions, but like, let's take one thing at a time and let's fix it from there, you know? And I think that's, I don't know, it's just the bit of wisdom that Job has, kind of, as he's going to that tactic, it's like, okay, give me one thing that you've seen that was real, that we can then maybe discuss and make sense of. But I can't fight assumptions, I can't fight your judgments of me that aren't even real, you know?
Right. Anything else? In 14, he's gonna repeat some of the other things that he said, a bit more of that woe is me and general negative way of looking at the life of a man. And continuing on with what he said about his relationship with God and what he wishes it was. So 14, well, we'll break it up by paragraph, give more people a chance to read, and make it a little bit more digestible. 1 through 6, chapter 14, verses 1 through 6. Please.
Man who is born of woman is of few days and full of trouble. He comes forth like a flower and fades away. He flees like a shadow and is not taken. And do you open your eyes on such a one and bring me the judgment with yourself? Who can bring a clean thing out of an unclean? No one. Since his days will return, the number of his months is with you, and have appointed his limits, so that he cannot pass. Look away from him, and he may rest, till like a hired man he finishes his day.
A man's life is short and from the beginning full of trouble. Any thoughts?
Pretty much sums it up.
I wish I had some notes for verse 3, but I do not. But it says, you're gonna have to look at it as a statement or a question. It says, you also open your eyes on him and bring him into judgment with yourself. The King James says, and do you open your eyes upon such a one and bring me into judgment with you?
Mine has reference to Psalms.
Which psalm?
Psalm 8:4 and 144:3. And then also 143:2.
This is 144:3, as well as 2.
Well, that's 143 verse 2.
Oh, okay.
So 144 verse 3, 143 verse 2.
All right, so what is man that you are mindful of him, and the Son of Man that you care for him? Interesting. And then 144, verse 3. What is man that you regard him, or the son of man that you think of him? I guess he's saying something along the lines of, it seems like he's looking at it and claiming that they are putting special judgment on him compared to the average person, and it's saying like everyone's life is absolutely full of trouble. But you look at trouble in my life and you say it's a result of sin. What are you guys doing? From the start, it's like this, but because it's me, it's different. Any thoughts before reading 7 through 12? All right, somebody please, 7 through 12. I'm gonna grab something to blow my nose, but I'll be listening. 7 through 12.
At least there is hope for a tree. If it is cut down, it will sprout again, and its new shoots will not fail. Its roots may grow old in the ground, and its stump die in the soil. Yet at the scent of water it will bud, and put forth shoots like a plant. But a man dies and is laid low, he breathes his last and is no more. As the water of the lake dries up, or riverbed becomes parched and dry, so he lies down and does not rise, till the heavens are on no more. People will not awake, or be roused from their sleep. More,
Oh, that's fine.
I wasn't sure where the stop was.
You're good.
That's fascinating.
More beautiful imagery.
Look at verse 12 and how it shows the end, where the stars fall out and the heavens fall and Jesus, judgment comes.
Yeah, until the heavens are no longer. He will not awake nor be aroused out of his sleep.
So they knew it back then.
Yeah, that there was going to be an end to the earth at some point, and that those who belong to God, they're going to essentially be asleep until that time. Which, and depending on where you stand about the differences that Christ brought about in the New Testament, it shows you at least what happens when somebody died, when they died under the Old Testament. As if they were sleeping until a certain time, with some exception, such as Elijah being taken directly into heaven, and then not Elijah only, but also Enoch, I think.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Good point. They had a very clear picture even back then. He likes to take things back to the natural world. Before he was like, if you were just asked the beast, if you were to ask the birds, if you were to ask the earth itself, it would tell you that God's power is what did this. It's God's hand that did this. And now he's looking back at those things again and saying, there's hope for a tree. If it was cut down, it's going to sprout again. You look at its roots. Though its roots grow old and the ground dies and the stump dies in the dry soil, at the scent of water it will flourish. This thing will seem to fall over and die. It'll be cut down. There's just a stump there, but as soon as water comes back in, there it is growing. It looks like a bush now.
I got one for you.
Yeah.
Matthew 24, verse 29. Immediately, and this is Jesus speaking. He says, I told you before. Immediately after the tribulation of those days, shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken.
Yeah.
And then shall appear the Son of Man, sign of the Son of Man in heaven.
Mm-hmm.
Just a reference point.
Yeah. I believe that that is further referenced deeper into Job. I think when it is that either the fourth character, I keep forgetting his name, starts talking, or when God himself starts talking. And interesting, so that he says in verse 12, it says, "So man lies down and does not rise until the heavens are no longer. He will not awake nor be aroused out of his sleep." Verse 13 is the first bit of that is a direct correlation to that, because he's talking about the grave, which we had said before. Its name is Sheol, is what they called it. That was the word they had for the grave, Sheol. So 13 through 17, somebody.
Oh, that you would hide me in the grave, that you would conceal me until your wrath is past, that you would appoint me a set time and remember me. If a man dies, shall he live again? All the days of my hard service I will wait, till my change comes. You shall call and I will answer you. You shall desire the work of your hands, for now you number my steps, but do not watch over my sin. My transgressions are sealed up in a bag, and you cover my iniquity.
That sounds very prophetic, doesn't it?
Yes, very.
And there's been a number of things we've noticed that Job says something, and he's like, "Does this happen?" Of course it doesn't happen. And you can almost hear God, you can almost see God sitting there, just nodding and going, "Yeah, it doesn't happen yet." If a man dies, will he live again? God's just going, you just wait, bud. Keep talking. Keep talking. Say more things. For now you number my steps. You do not observe my sin. My transgression is sealed up in a bag, and you wrap up my iniquity, or you cover my iniquity. Yeah. And so you can also tell that he's shifted his audience from his friends to God. He's talking to God now.
Well, they were no help,
Right.
you know.
Yeah. Although perhaps in a sense he's talking to all of them, and there's some double meaning here, because when he says, could you read verse 16 again? Remind me how it is that your
For
translation
now,
put it.
you number my steps, but do not watch over my sin.
All right, so it's still implied that you do not observe my sin. All right. So that could be like a double meaning of like asking God, just don't look at the things that I've done, or saying again, I've not done anything. And then also saying to his friends, you've not seen me do anything. If I have done anything, I know for a fact that you weren't there to see it. So why are you holding things against me? 18 through 22.
But as a mountain falls and crumbles away, and as a rock is moved from its place, as water wears away stones, and as torrents wash away the soil of the earth, so you destroy the hope of man. You prevail forever against him, and he passes on. You change his countenance and send him away. His sons come to honor, and he does not know it. They are brought low, and he does not perceive it. But his flesh will be in pain over it, and his soul will mourn over it.
Anything pop out?
God is the great destroyer of hope.
Yeah. Yeah. And the one who provided the only, right? The only hope. You destroy man's hope. You forever overpower him, and he departs or dies. You change his appearance and send him away. His sons achieve honor, but he does not know it. or they become insignificant and he does not perceive it. But his body pains him, and he mourns only for himself. You can tell that what he's talking about here, what he's actually talking about, is what he himself has experienced. He's talking about his own body. He's talking about his own son. And less speaking truth and more speaking emotion. He's saying, so the falling mountain crumbles away and the rock moves from its place. Water wears away stones, its torrents wash away the dust of the earth. And in such a way you destroy my hope, is what he's saying. You forever overpower me until I depart or die. You change my appearance and send me away. Because you look at, again, how it is that he looked, covered in boils, been sitting there, he's emaciated. He is also shaven in sackcloth and ashes. My sons achieved honor, but you don't know it, or my son doesn't know it, I'm not sure which. Or they become insignificant, but you don't perceive it. And my body pains me, and I mourn only for myself. He's saying, now I've gotten to the point where I just mourn me. I wish I was just dead. I want to mourn myself as if I already was dead. Just let me. Back, just a much more eloquent way of saying, as he said before, just let me die, please. Just kill me. Tell me what I've done wrong and let me change it, or just kill me. And that is the end of Job's response to Zophar, which is perhaps a little unfair to say like the whole thing was a response to Zophar. Really, the first chapter, chapter 12, I think, was a response to Zophar. The rest of it was, I'm going to talk to you guys and let me clarify some things. Maybe you can see things as I see things. And you'd hope that after this, his friends would be going, okay, so you have a point. let's dive into it. But that's not so much of what it is that we see, unfortunately. But on the plus side, the next person to talk is Eliphaz. And Eliphaz was the first person to talk, the one who showed the most wisdom, the most compassion. Yeah. We don't have time to go into that, but we do have time to discuss what we've already read.
I think it just gives, like what you were saying as friends, you'd think maybe after hearing them, but it's awfully hard to understand without experiencing something.
Yeah.
You know? And so like, I don't know, it's almost like, if you think about Jesus, God allowed him to experience the worst so that anyone can come to heaven.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, he went to the depths so that those in the depths would have a chance to come to heaven.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost like the place of blessing that he bestows upon certain people, that he gives understanding to. Because not everybody has understanding. Like his friends, for instance. No matter how much you try to get them to understand understanding and how he tries to explain it to them, they're not getting it because they never experienced it, maybe.
Yeah.
And it's interesting in the New Testament where he kind of references this point in my understanding. I could be wrong. But when he's talking to the Pharisees and he's saying, listen, the prostitutes and the tax collectors, they're going to enter the kingdom of heaven before you. And then he says, like, the greatest will be the least in the kingdom, and the least shall be the greatest. Well, like, what's he referencing? I think understanding. Like, they have more understanding.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's what made, that's what the knowledge of good and evil did to Adam and Eve. I mean, granted, it also took them into the world of sin, Well, what they were after and what that did for them is it gave them understanding that God had it. When it said that you will be like God or be like God, when Satan said that, it was true in that you will understand the difference between right and wrong very clearly. You will understand what suffering is. You will understand how bad things can get. That's what God knew that they didn't, and that's what Satan wanted them to be a part of. And it ultimately kind of backfires because now those who were dragged down by what Adam and Eve did and by what it is that Satan did, those are the ones that are going to be the first in heaven. And what a final kick to the shins that is to Satan. Isn't that awesome? This So those who you thought you had, they're going to be number one. The ones that you tore down the most, they are going to be the greatest. They're going to, compared to what you thought you were, Satan, when you were mine, that's what they're going to be.
Also makes me want to read Seth's shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which one is that?
it's in Job,
Yeah.
chapter,
28.
28. So it's to fear the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and to depart from evil is understanding.
And that's actually something important to keep in mind for today in context of the church. There is a major, not downside, but yes, downside. There's something that people who grow up in the church, there's something that they really lack, which is the understanding of what it is to be without the church, to be without God, to be in the depths of the world and crawling your way out. There's a reason that newer converts have so much fire compared to the rest of the church. It's because they just came out of it and they can see clearly. And you can tell in most of the time in how it is that people are. You can tell their reaction to God's word and their readiness to go out into the world and do things and be a difference. You can see that person grew up in the church and that person knows what it's like to be without God. Or that person left God at one point and realized where it leads.
It reminds me of that verse that says, like, I can't remember it right now. He who's forgiven much loves much, or he who, like, what's that verse that says?
Amen, that's what I was thinking.
Like whoever's been forgiven a lot will understand so much.
Loves a lot.
Loves a lot. It's like they're like a different,
Another level, man.
Yeah.
I love them a lot.
You can't depart from evil if you weren't a part of it. And so if departing from evil is the beginning of understanding, and you've never seen it, never been a part of it, then you don't have much more to learn. That's not me challenging you saying, hey, go out and experience some evil and then come back. Don't do that. Don't be the Amish.
Glad you clarified.
But seriously, what other organization in the world can somebody jokingly says, I love him a lot, meaning I am a big sinner, and have just hope in that still. That's good news. That's why thousands of people follow him.
Mm-hmm.
That's good news, because everybody's in that boat. There's only a few people in the righteous boat.
Right.
Let's be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody else is in the other boat. That's who he came for. That's what he said. It's I didn't come for the righteous.
Yeah, they're already fine.
Yeah, I came.
I'll see them when we're all done.
Yeah, the wretched is the word, and it's a beautiful place to go from whenever you're there. You go up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Wonderful thing about rock bottom is that the only place to go is up, and everything is fantastic from there. Right? Anything else before it is we get ready to close out? Alrighty. Well, Zophar's outburst really re-inspired Job's sarcasm. He responded to Eliphaz with sarcasm, and then kind of was blunt to blunt with Bildad. And he seems to have picked up on Zophar's failure to hear his descriptions of God with when he said, "Wisdom will die with you, Zophar." You're the wisest one here, and when you're gone, we won't have anyone, none of us who are older than you will have anyone to go to. Again, he was likely the youngest, especially with the I am not inferior to you. I have a brain kind of response. None of these things that you say are special revelation like you think. Everybody knows these things. The birds know these things. These rocks know these things that you're saying. Zophar had claimed that Job was mocking his friends in verse 3 of 11, but Job affirms that it's him who is being mocked and by his friends. And then he lets out that sting of his own. You're about to fall flat of your own accord, and you are as unwelcome as a sudden light to those who are resting at night. Oh man, you might have some truth there, but it's just like blasting 10,000 lumens in the eyes of somebody who just woke up. You ever see that meme? The guy who just woke up, he's just sitting there with that face. What's going on? No, I'm glad that was still recording the cat right there. Zophar, in answer to Zophar's plea that Job remove wickedness from his house so that he would once again prosper, in 11:14, Job makes the argument that the houses of robbers prosper, and that the blasphemous do not suffer as he is suffering. And Job again acknowledges that he believes this to be God's doing and God's right. Not that God's in the wrong for doing this, but that God is doing this. But that Job didn't, he's also saying that he didn't do anything to deserve what has happened from this punishment, and he has nothing to repent of. The more I read of Job's reply, the more I'm convinced that Zophar was younger and speaking out of place. He really should have just kept his mouth shut. He was excited to show himself as wise, and excited to kind of tear down somebody who was older and wiser and much more rich and more successful, and finally feel like he's made it, that his graying hairs mean something. He spends several lines saying that God is the wisest one, and that true wisdom does come with age. He says again at the beginning of chapter 13 that he knows the same things that Zophar knows, and that these things are common knowledge, and that Job is not inferior. Where might Zophar find wisdom? Well, according to 13:5, Job says that it would be in keeping quiet. Show yourself wise, Zophar. Keep your mouth shut. And what's that saying? It's better to let people think that you're stupid than open your mouth and remove all doubt.
Yeah.
All three of the men have told Job to ask God for forgiveness. In answer to this, in Zophar's raising claim that Job is a liar, he replies that all logic says that if anyone would have reason to have already prayed to God, it would be him. And of course Job has prayed. We actually witnessed him pray. And ask for forgiveness, but he would ask for forgiveness, but he doesn't know what to ask forgiveness for. He turns the accusation over towards Zophar, saying, "You are forgers of lies, you are physicians of no value. In other words, none of you are of any help to me." And from here through the end of the 13th chapter, Job describes how Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar have been a greater harm than a help. And chapter 14 brings an end to Job's responses to the insults, and instead describes his innocence by evidence of the common condition of man. And he expresses further the unfair nature of their accusations against him. That is 11 through 14. So the next bit should be 15 through 17. That'll be Eliphaz's second speech from Job's response. And if we can, we'll go further. So read as much as you want. And we will go on more next week. If no one has anything else, I believe Seth has the closing prayer. And is there anything else before we close? All right.
Will you bow with me? Dear most gracious, loving Heavenly Father, we come before you this evening and just want to thank you so much for holding the world in your hands and being in control. You were righteous and you were merciful, and Lord, it's a good thing that you're the God, and we hope in you, and we trust in you, and we have faith in you. And Father, we don't have too much faith in who we are or what we've experienced in this life. There's so much we don't know. There's even about our own lives and questions that we have and the wonders that we have. And we pray that you just sort them all out in our mind and file them neatly away into a faith file, that we are able to have peace and we're able to just trust and lean on you, and it'd be okay that we don't understand certain things about the way things go or the way things are going, or what's a test and what's not a test, and what's because of us and our stupidity, and what's because of Satan and this fallen world. But Lord, one thing's for sure, this place is rough, and we need your help to get through it. And we just pray that you fix our eyes on your Son Jesus and what he's done for us and the sacrifice he's made for us, and that you reveal to us and give us understanding of what humility and righteousness is, so that we might fall under the grace someday when we see you. We love you. We ask that you please forgive us of anything that is wrong with us, because there's many things, I'm sure. We're very broken. Please be with us. Please forgive us, and please help us to see it and to be able to make a difference, if it be thy will in our lives. And it's in your Son, Jesus Christ, that we pray. Amen.
Thank you, guys.